So pro-Palestinian protesters all over the Western world, even in Palestine, all over the world for that matter, are asking for a ceasefire. When looking throughout history, anytime any nation went against another nation to stop them in their tracks from causing genocide or atrocities, there were civilian casualties. That is war. War is ugly, but that is part of war. We didn't ask America or Britain for a ceasefire when we were up against Hitler. Nor did we ask for a ceasefire from Ukraine when it was being attacked by Russia. So why condemn Russia but not Hamas? Why blame Israel for defending itself but not blame Ukraine for defending itself? Ever since the atrocities on October 7th, anybody who is in support of Palestine or Hamas refuses to condemn Hamas. Nobody will outright condemn Hamas, especially Muslims, because standing up against Hamas or condemning Hamas is condemning their own faith, their own religion. This is a religious war, people. Do not get it confused. This has nothing to do with land. It has everything to do with religion. And all you need to do is read the Quran and Sahih al-Bukhari in order to understand this. That is why no Muslim will condemn Hamas.
For the Russian forces attacking Ukraine, killing large numbers of civilians is horrifically not uncommon. In Mariupol, where hundreds are already buried in mass graves, there may be a new atrocity. The city's main theater, which was serving as a bomb shelter, was hit by an enormous Russian bomb, says Ukraine's military. Hundreds were inside. It's not known the casualties. Amid such gruesomeness, it appears there has been progress towards a ceasefire. President Vladimir Zelensky said Ukraine wants a just peace with security guarantees. And Russia's foreign minister speculated that Ukrainian neutrality might be acceptable to Russia. But Ukraine wants all Russian troops out. Vladimir Putin is sounding uncompromising. He repeated his usual lie that Russia's military is not hitting civilian targets.
And their big worry is that this could simply be a delaying tactic to perhaps get some kind of a ceasefire just to allow Russia to rearm and then keep attacking.
So Vladimir Putin plays victim, blames Ukraine, and now Hamas plays victim and blames Israel.
The man who unleashed the invasion, now playing the victim after Western allies punished Russia in response with unprecedented economic sanctions.
These are methods of fighting against Russia. These sanctions that you can see are equivalent of war. But thankfully it has not come to an actual war. But we understand what these threats are about.
But it's Vladimir Putin's forces making the menacing moves. These images from Russia's defense ministry show troops outside Kiev and attacking from the air.
Russian President Vladimir Putin, an accused war criminal in the West, a guest of honor in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping feasting with a fellow strongman, triumphantly toasting their vision of a new world order. A world prioritizing Palestinians over Western-backed Israel, pitting the Putin-Xi world against the US-led free world. Russia and China refusing to strongly condemn the Hamas attack.
Do you think Hamas are a terror group?
I believe it's a resistance organisation.
Okay. Do you think what they did on October the 7th was a terror attack?
I believe that if civilians got killed on that day, it is appalling. It is appalling.
You're a doctor, man.
It is appalling.
You're a doctor in the NHS. What do you mean if? 1,200 people got massacred. You believe Hamas are a terror organisation?
Okay, and I'd like to ask you, what does that mean?
Just answer my question.
Well, I need clarification.
Well, you've no idea what terrorism is.
No, I want you to answer. Killing civilians is not an act of terror.
You're not going to answer. Let me bring.
I want your definition.
No.
I want you to be consistent.
We have a third guest.
No, but I'm going to bring.
He won't even condemn Hamas, and he won't. As a Muslim, his allegiance is to Allah.
October 7 happened, and many things happened after. Are we here just stuck there as a snapshot and to discuss it, or we want to discuss what after and what can be done in a positive way? That's the most important.
I think
so he is brushing off the atrocities of October 7th and what Hamas did, and he's ignoring that fact, which caused all of this. He's ignoring the first cause, And then he just wants to move on and focus on Israel responding instead, completely neglecting the why. Why did Israel attack in the first place? Why did Israel have to defend itself? They don't want to talk about it because they are defending Hamas. They are defending Islam.
9/11 is Palestine's 24/7.
That's completely
Let me bring in Louise.
absurd.
Let me bring in Louise here.
I found it really shocking, I have to say, that your organisation within our lifetime said that it was an act of resistance on October the 7th. I mean, that is the most un-Islamic thing I've ever heard in my life. Tying the hands of little children behind them, covering them in petrol and then burning them alive. Please tell me, what is resistance about such inhumane torture of kids?
Since Palestinians are put in a situation where they're in an open-air prison, what we were celebrating that day is them breaking out of that open-air prison. I don't understand how the world expects
It's one of the reasons.
people.
It's one of the reasons why you're not so keen to condemn what Hamas did on October the 7th, because you're fearful of publicly doing that. Are all Palestinians fearful of speaking out against Hamas, actually? Because there's a very good reason to be fearful.
No, there's no reason to be fearful.
Are you prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational discussion with you? Is it possible? What I've said is...
I've asked you two questions. Should Hamas stay in power and are they a terror group? You're refusing to answer either of them. That is very telling. And you wonder,
It's not very telling
why people think you had a problem with Jewish people.
At all.
Right?
What is very telling is your inability to keep quiet for 30 seconds to allow anybody to answer a question.
On my show, I ask people questions.
You shout at people.
Normally, they answer them. Are they a terror group, Len?
Of course, the terror...
Thank you. Why can't you say that?
Hang on.
You've answered it.
Coming here as someone...
Do you condemn Hamas then? Tell me that.
I have already said that I condemn the violence that Hamas perpetrated.
Hamas as an organisation, a terrorist organisation, will you condemn them?
I don't see them as a terrorist organisation. Can you...
Despite the horrors we're learning about every day, State Representative Tim Hernandez refused to condemn the violence.
Has introduced himself as a state representative, and he began recording a conversation that would go viral.
Do you condemn the murder of women and children in the streets by Palestinian terrorists?
I condemn any form of colonial violence.
Can you say yes to that?
Perpetuated upon any group of people because I believe.
Do you consider?
Are you going to keep it up to me so you can get some Twitter clout or what?
I asked if liberating Palestine involves murdering women and children in the streets. Yes or no?
I told you I believe in the liberation of Palestine, and I've already answered that question.
And I think it's despicable what they're protesting for. And what you're protesting for. And the fact that you can't condemn women and children and elderly people being murdered in the streets.
What about it?
Isn't Hamas the problem here?
So, Danica, the problem is that Israel has a Palestine problem.
So, again, I'm asking you, I'm talking about a terrorist organisation here. Are you going to come out and are you going to condemn the terrorist organisation? It's very, but it's a simple question, Nasser.
Did you ask Ms. Searle, at no point did you ask Ms. Searle if she was okay with the past 16 years of...
There are some things that are just fundamental human decency. And when I ask you if what happened on October 7th is something you condemn, and you say, well, you have to look at that by looking at hundreds of years of conflict. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's either right or it's wrong, and it was wrong, and I don't need 100 years of conflict to know it was wrong.
The fact of the matter is that Hamas, yes, did take innocent life. Why did Hamas take away innocent life? Why was Hamas platformed? Why was Hamas funded? Why is Hamas empowered to take away innocent life?
Let me tell you something. When somebody comes over a fence and goes into someone's house and burns their infant in its crib, I don't give a damn why they did it. It's wrong.
You cannot even condemn Hamas and say that what they did on October 7 was an act of a savage group. You don't have that power.
Said I condemn.
On what authority do you speak?
question.
You only speak on the authority of Hamas propaganda.
No, why do you say that I'm speaking on the authority of Hamas propaganda?
Because if you were a decent human being, you can say that the thousands were killed on October 7. That was a crime against humanity. It was a genocide.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace to you all. My name is Saba Ahmed. I'm a law student at American University.
I am here to ask you a simple question. I know that we portray Islam and all Muslims as bad, but there's 1.8 billion Muslim followers of Islam. We have 8 million plus Muslim Americans in this country, and I don't see them represented here. But my question is, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons? How can we ever end this war? The jihadist ideology that you talk about, it's an ideology. How can you ever win this thing if you don't address it ideologically?
Great question. I am so glad you're here, and I am so glad you brought that up because it gives us an opportunity to answer. What I find so amazing is since the beginning of this panel, which we are here about Benghazi attack against our people, not one person mentioned Muslims. We are here against Islam, or we're launching war against Muslims. We are here to discuss how 4 Americans died and what our government is doing. We were not here to bash Muslims. You were the one who brought up the issue about most Muslims, not us. And since you brought it up, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big of the United States. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died. Almost 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? And since you're the only Muslim representative in here, you took the limelight instead of speaking about why our government, and I assume, are you an American? You're an American citizen. So as an American citizen, you sat in this room and instead of standing up and saying a question or asking something about our 4 Americans that died and what our government is doing to correct the problem, you stood there to make a point about peaceful, moderate Muslims. I wish you brought 10 with you to question about how we can hold our government responsible. It is time we take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs and start calling it fair.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you want more context, watch my full video, Pro-Palestine Protesters Are Spreading Jihad. It explains everything, every single aspect about the Israel and Palestine conflict, proving that it is a religious war. It's not about land. Israel was there first, and showing you guys from the Quran and Sahih al-Bukhari and the Hamas Covenant Charter why they believe jihad is necessary and that it's the individual duty of every Muslim to fight in the name of Allah.